welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie. And this week we have a bit of a serious topic. We are doing mental health. When we looked at the NAMI website, we found a lot of challenges with the COVID pandemic. And we also found that 1 in 5 adults experienced a mental illness during this pandemic. So we thought today would be a good day to introduce you to some of our nonfiction that deals with mental health and some fiction characters that also have dealt with it. So I will turn it over to Jill for her first pick.
So my first pick is Everything Here is Beautiful by Mira T. Lee. Two Chinese-American sisters, Miranda, the older, responsible one, always her younger sister's protector, Lucia, the headstrong, unpredictable one, whose impulses are huge and often life-changing. When Lucia starts hearing voices, it is Miranda who must find a way to reach her sister. Lucia impetuously plows ahead, but the bitter constant is that she is, in fact, mentally ill. Lucia lives life on a grand scale until inevitably she crashes to earth. Miranda leaves her own self-contained life in Switzerland to rescue her sister again, but only Lucia can decide whether she wants to be saved. The bonds of sisterly devotion stretch across the oceans, but what does it take to break them? Everything Here is Beautiful is, at its heart, an immigrant story and a young woman's quest to find fulfillment in a life unconstrained by her illness. But it's also an unforgettable, gut-wrenching story of the sacrifices we make to truly love someone, and when loyalty to oneself must prevail over all.
And I'm kicking off with a new book that we have in the nonfiction collection, and this is called Healing: Our Path from Mental Illness to Mental Health by Thomas Insel, which was just published this year. He's the former director of the National Institute for Mental Health, and he debuts with a profound diagnosis of the ills and promises of the United States mental health care system. He admits that during his tenure as the nation's psychiatrist, he struggled to grasp the problem underlying the country's mental health crisis. Our science was looking for causes and mechanisms, while the effects of these disorders were playing out with increasing death and disability, increasing incarceration and homelessness, and increasing frustration and despair. In the United States, we have treatments that work, but often our system fails. Even before COVID, mental illness was claiming a life every 11 minutes by suicide. Quality of care varies widely, and much of the field lacks accountability. We focus on drug therapies for symptom reduction rather than on plans for a long-term recovery. Dr. Insel also found that we do have approaches that work both in the U.S. and globally. Mental illness are medical problems, but he discovers that the cures for the crisis are not just medical, but also social. The path to healing, built upon what he calls the 3 Ps, people, place, and purpose, is more straightforward than we might imagine. He offers a comprehensive plan in this book for our failing systems and for families trying to discern their way forward. The fruit of a lifetime of expertise and a global quest for answers, this book is a hopeful, actionable account and an achievable vision for all of us in this time of mental health crisis. It's as compassionate as it is comprehensive. So this is in our new nonfiction.
My next one is Imagine Me Gone by Adam Haslett. When Margaret's fiancé John is hospitalized for depression in 1960s London, she faces a choice: carry on with her plans despite what she now knows of his condition, or back away from the suffering it may bring her. She decides to marry him. Imagine Me Gone is the unforgettable story of what unfolds from this act of love and faith. At the heart of it is their eldest son, Michael, a brilliant, anxious music fanatic who makes sense of the world through parody. Over the span of decades, his younger siblings, the savvy, responsible Celia and the ambitious and tightly controlled Alec, struggle along with their mother to care for Michael's increasingly troubled and precarious existence. Told in alternating points of view by all 5 members of the family, this searing, gut-wrenching, yet frequently hilarious novel brings alive with remarkable depth and poignancy the love of a mother for her children and the often inescapable devotion siblings feel toward one another, and the legacy of a father's pain in the life of a family. So, Imagine Me Gone.
My second pick, kind of got a little glare on this one. This is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Hannon, published in 2004. Christopher John Francis Boone knows all the countries of the world and their capitals and every prime number up to 7,057. He loves lists, patterns, and truths. He relates well to animals, but has no understanding of human emotions. He can't stand to be touched, and he detests the color yellow. The improbable story of Christopher's quest to investigate the suspicious death of a neighborhood dog named Wellington makes for a captivating, unusual, and widely heralded novel. He has never gone further than the end of the road on his own, but when he finds the dog, he sets out on a terrifying journey which will turn his whole world upside down. This is a murder mystery like no other. The detective and narrator is Christopher John Francis Boone. This book, though thin, has 233 chapters because Christopher only used consecutive prime numbers. I saw this performed as a play by UW Oshkosh Fox Cities in 2019. It was extremely moving. The young man who played was phenomenal. It started where the lights came up and a boy was looking down at the ground with a dog with a pitchfork in his sides, and then the lights went on and off like a heartbeat flashing as that boy looked at horror at the dog. It was very moving. So I chose The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
That is an excellent book, and I feel like it's must reading because it's like one of the first times you had an autistic character, as a main character, which is great. So my next one, there seems to be more of these coming in our shelves. It's a graphic memoir of people who suffer from mental illness. This one is called Marbles, Mania, Depression, Michelangelo and Me by Ellen Forney. It's kind of got a funny view of it, which is great because sometimes you have to laugh at yourself, Cartoonist Ellen Forney explores a relationship between crazy and creative in this graphic memoir of her bipolar disorder, woven with stories of famous bipolar artists and writers. Shortly before her 30th birthday, Forney was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Flagrantly manic and terrified that medications would cause her to lose creativity, she began a years-long struggle to find mental stability while retaining her passions and creativity. Searching to make sense of the popular concept of the crazy artist, she finds inspiration from the lives and work of other artists and writers who suffered from mood disorders, including Vincent van Gogh, George O'Keeffe, William Styron, and Sylvia Plath. She also researches the clinical aspects of bipolar disorder, including the strengths and limitations of various treatments and medications, and what studies tell us about the conundrum of attempting to cure an otherwise brilliant mind. Darkly funny and intensely personal, Forney's memoir provides a visceral glimpse into the effects of the mood disorder on an artist's work, as she shares her own story through bold black and white images and evocative prose. So,
And you just mentioned the next woman. I have Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. This is from our Classics collection and was published in 1963. The Bell Jar chronicles the life of Esther Greenwood. She's brilliant, beautiful, enormously talented, and successful, but she's slowly going under, maybe for the last time. Sylvia Plath masterfully draws the reader into Esther's breakdown with such intensity that Esther's insanity becomes completely real and even rational, as probable and accessible an experience as going to the movies. Such deep penetration into the dark and harrowing corners of the psyche is an extraordinary accomplishment and has made The Bell Jar a haunting American classic. This is the only novel written by the poet and was originally published under the pseudonym Victoria Lucas when it came out in 1963. It's semi-autobiographical with the names of places and people changed. The protagonist's descent into mental illness parallels Sylvia Plath's own experiences with what might have been clinical depression or bipolar II disorder. So, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath.
I feel like that's a must-read too, and I have to read it yet.
Me too.
And another one of those people mentioned in that thing. Vincent and Theo, The Van Gogh Brothers by Deborah Hellington. This is nonfiction, but it reads like a novel. I really enjoyed this book. The deep and enduring friendship between Vincent and Theo Van Gogh shaped both brothers' lives. Confident, champion, sympathizer, friend, Theo supported Vincent as he struggled to find his path in life. They shared everything, swapping stories of lovers and friends, successes and disappointments, dreams and ambitions, meticulously researched, drawing on 658 letters Vincent wrote to Theo during his lifetime. Deborah Hellington weaves a tale of two lives intertwined in the love of the Van Gogh brothers. And along with the brotherly thing, I think this book does a really good job of exploring what was happening to Vincent and his descent into madness and his struggles. So, yeah. And how it related to his art. It's really fascinating. It's a really good book.
Sounds like an interesting read. My fourth pick is by an author which we've featured before. This is from our YA collection. This is John Green's Turtles All the Way Down, published back in 2017. It all begins with a fugitive billionaire and the promise of a cash reward. This book is about lifelong friendship, the intimacy of an unexpected reunion, and Star Wars fan fiction. But at its heart is Aza Holmes, a young woman navigating daily existence within the ever-tightening spiral of her own thoughts. John Green shares her story with shattering, unflinching clarity. She never intended to pursue the mystery of fugitive billionaire Russell Pickett, but there's a $100,000 reward at stake, and her best and most fearless friend Daisy is eager to investigate, so together they navigate the short distance and broad divides that separate them from Russell Pickett's son, Davis. Aza is she's trying to be a good daughter, good friend, a good student, and maybe even a good detective, while also living with the ever-tightening spiral of her own thoughts. USA Today said this is a thoughtful look at mental illness and a debilitating obsessive-compulsive disorder that doesn't ask but makes you feel the constant struggles of its main character. Turtles All the Way Down explores the definition of happy endings, whether love is a tragedy or a failure, and a universal lesson for us all: you work with what you have. So Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I like him as an author.
Can't go wrong with John Green. You just can't. This was off our classic shelf as well. Edgar Allan Poe, Tales of Terror and Madness, and I like his view of this. This is a book of 19 stories by Edgar Allan Poe, abound with characters, among them gibbering madmen, ominous doppelgangers, walled-up victims, and living dead corpses. It includes the fall of the House of Usher, with the melancholy House of Usher was crumbling pile, whose sad decline was but a mirror of its family's psychic state, and The Telltale Heart, which is my favorite story, in which the murderer protested that he wasn't mad, but his gruesome crime says otherwise. And there are 16 other short stories and a full-length novel called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket in here, so a little bit different view of the mental health spectrum.
And I'm finishing with another nonfiction one. This is Good Morning Monster. A therapist shares 5 heroic stories of emotional recovery by Catherine Gildener, published in 2020. In this narrative, the therapist/author presents 5 of what she calls her most heroic and memorable patients. Among them, a successful first-generation Chinese immigrant musician suffering from sexual dysfunction, a young woman whose father abandoned her at age 9 with her younger siblings in an isolated cottage in the depth of winter, and a glamorous workaholic whose narcissistic, negligent mother greeted her every morning of her childhood with, "Good morning, monster." Each patient presents a mystery, one that will only be unpacked over the years. They seek the author's help to overcome an immediate challenge in their lives, but discover that the source of their suffering has long been buried. As in such recent classics such as The Glass Castle or Educated, each patient embodies self-reflection, perseverance, and forgiveness as they work unflinchingly to face the truth. The author's account of her journeys with them is moving, insightful, and sometimes very funny. Good Morning Monster offers an almost novelistic, behind-the-scenes look into the therapist's office, illustrating how the process can heal even the most unimaginable wounds.
Well, we hope that we helped you find something to read if you're looking for something on mental health awareness. And
we thank you for watching. Like, comment, share. We always like to hear from you. Jill now has this videos posted on our Kimberly Public Library website also. That links you to YouTube if you missed them on Facebook. So.
You can't find us. I'll make sure you can.
So until then, thank you for watching, and bye-bye.
Bye.